Hi everybody, my name is Khanh. Here's my coming out story. When I was about 7, we moved from Denver. Hi everybody, my name is Khanh. Here's my coming out story. When I was about 7, we moved from Denver, Colorado to Corvallis, Oregon. Corvallis was your stereotypical privileged college town with very little diversity. Going from a very poor neighborhood to what some may call white suburbia was pretty unsettling for me, as I'd never seen so many Nike clothes in my entire life. I soon became acclimated in my surroundings, played sports, developed groups of friends, and even was considered one of the popular girls. I could never really understand why girls were so into their boyfriends or why I developed these crazy obsession with my best girlfriends. I just thought it was always normal to always want to be with them. Being gay never crossed my mind. I mean, sure, I'd pretend to be Dylan McKay from 90210 and daydream what it'd be like to make out with Kelly. But of course, that was absolutely normal. And besides, lesbians were the ones that were ugly with short hair, couldn't get guys, wore flannel, and most of all, lesbians were not Asian. Fast forward to my senior year. I have it all set. Senior year was going to be the best year ever. I had a great college boyfriend. He isn't the smartest, but he's great looking. And I've recently started practicing rugby with the college women's team, which meant college parties. Rugby was more diverse than I'd ever imagined a sport being. I met a variety of girls on the teams, from sorority girls to yes, the L word, lesbians. I'd actually felt bad for what I thought about the gay community, as the girls on the team were probably the most accepting and genuine of all the girls. They were actually pretty cool. One morning, I went to take the SATs, and I ran into one of my old friends from one of the other high schools. She introduced me to her friend Emily. And I thought to myself, oh, she's cute. But how do I know this girl? I know her from somewhere. And I kept being distracted to the test. How do I know her? How do I know her? And then it suddenly dawned on me. She's the lesbian from the other school. God, she's a lesbian. Ooh, maybe I have a chance. Wait, what am I thinking? I couldn't stop thinking about her. So I did what any normal 18-year-old love-struck teenage girl would do. I became obsessed with her, stalked her, and became her friend. Soon enough, we became friends, and I told her her feelings, and we proceeded to date. I had a girlfriend, and I wanted to tell everyone. And of course, I had to do the uber gay thing, cut my hair, put a rainbow sticker on my car, and all that jazz. I was out and proud, except of course to my strict Vietnamese immigrant Catholic parents. Then one day, I came home from school, and on the dinner table were a bunch of pictures of Emily and I, from kissing to holding hands, and my stern Asian parents looking at me with strong disapproval. They proceeded to ask me what I was doing with this girl, and I responded in a typical teenage way, I don't want to talk about it. Mind you, my parents don't speak English to me, and all these conversations are in what I like to call Vietlish or Englishnamese, a combination of Vietnamese and English. I was quiet during the conversations. It went from hours and hours. They went off on me from being not right with God and how this is a sin, and especially how much shame I brought to the family. That was one of the hardest days in my entire life. The next day, I stopped by the house to grab a few things, and my mom's home. She asks me what this specifically meant for me. Are you gay? Are you bisexual? And I told her in a typical way, I'm not all that sure. She tells me, though, she's gonna give me this warning, that if I was gonna join the lesbian community or I was gonna mess around with girls, that she needed me to know this. Mais qui con lesbienne nó sẽ mang con đi với mấy cái nó dùng toys. Cứ nhớ đó, nó mình dùng toys. What the heck? What does that mean? What she said was, those lesbians, just remember, they'll try to swap you around between them. And remember, they use toys. Just always remember, they use toys. I can't really say how my mom knew about lesbians, since I couldn't even imagine she knew anything in that department. I spent years trying to understand their perspective, as it took the same time for them to come around to the idea that they have a gay daughter. I once read a quote that says, "Change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end." I'm amazed that given their struggles and their old cultural conservative ways, that they even can come around to it. But they've become my strongest support group. They were there for my wedding, and unfortunately there for my divorce, and still are there for me today. But don't worry, my mom still asks questions like this. Cái nào cái con trai vậy? Which means, which one's the man? And I swear, she claims she has gaydar.
Well, hi there. Welcome again to the 6th season of the Coming Out Monologues. Hashtag pandemic tech glitches season edition. So we did already start, but it sounds like you didn't hear us. So we really wanted to make sure you heard all the good stuff that we're wanting to share with you. Welcome to the 6th season of the Coming Out Monologues. This is our first virtual event, not without tech glitches, as we all are used to by now. Thank you so much for coming, and happy National Coming Out Day. My name is CM Hall, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, they, them, theirs, and I identify as a cisgender, lesbian-identified, bisexual, feminist, and queer activist. And I'm also the producer of the Coming Out Monologues. I am delighted to have a co-MC this year, and I'd like to welcome Judge Kemp, who is a Coming Out Monologues storytelling alum. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you, CM. My name is Judge Kemp. I am a cis gay male, and my pronouns are he, him. Thank you all for joining us this evening. It's important more than ever for everyone to hear these stories of our shared experiences. The monies raised tonight support Basic Rights Oregon's Equality PAC, which works to elect pro-equality candidates across Oregon. We'll hear more about the Equality PAC a little later, and we'll ask you to make an additional contribution to support our work. Because we are virtual, many of you are able to join this meeting, join this event for the first time. And it sounds like we may have another little glitch going on, so please stand by.
We're good.
We are good. Yes, it is definitely 2020, the year of pandemic, and we're just waiting for the meteor to hit now. Anyway, let us know where you folks are. We want to hear from you in the chat room. So, when you get a second, chime in. Let us know where you are listening to us or viewing us from. So, Basic Rights Oregon knows, just because about justice work is intersectional. I'll get it out here. So now more than ever, we need to pause and hear the stories of our lived experiences from our LGBTQ folks of color. Because it's not a perfect queer world yet, there's still a risk in coming out. And it's partly why I love this show. There's a vulnerability in really listening to each other. We have brave, beautiful souls this evening sharing this information with us tonight. I know you're all out there cheering them on. Be sure to send them all your love in the chat. So let's begin. The Coming Out Monologues, Season 6.
Is there something going on between you two? Yes, I replied. But please don't kick him out. that's how I came out. My name is Christian. I was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1980. Only son to a wonderful, loving, hard worker, divorcee mom. I lived with her and my grandma, who would take care of me while my mom was working. Oh, she felt so guilty for not being able to attend school events. I had a happy childhood. Every few weekends, my other grandma took 2 buses to come and pick me up and take me over to her house for the weekend. My dad lived behind her house, but I will only see him once in a while. At home, I created my own world. I made homemade carnival rides, and I will invite my neighbor's friends, all girls, to come over and try them. I am glad that nobody got hurt. I also created a small CD and a TV studio on my desk, using Christmas lights as set lights. I would spend just hours and hours just dreaming. My mom, one time she sacrificed our dining room table, cut its legs, and made a stage for me. I always loved theater, and I continue performing as I grew up. We always went to church, Pentecostal then Baptist. I had a community there. I always knew I liked boys. I also knew that I could never say it to anyone. I was so afraid that my mom would find out, because she was, and she is, very important to me. I had a plan. I will marry a pretty girl and live next door to my best friend's family. He was very handsome, and I think he eventually felt that I liked him and stopped communicating with me. In school, I was never bullied for being or acting gay, but I was horrible at sports, and kids did not like that. Let me introduce myself. I am the only Argentinian who doesn't like soccer. I tried, but every time the ball would just pass me by, or I would make a goal for the opposite team. The hate for sports became so great that I conveniently scheduled rehearsals for the theater program that I started with a few classmates at the same time as PE classes. I graduated high school, and then I started my quest to find a permanent job while I was attending college. School is free in Argentina, but you still need money for materials or for living expenses. I really wanted to get a degree in theater, but I settled for psychology and then changed to medicine. But it became hard without a job. Too young to have experience, and nobody hires you. My mom was working as a secretary, but the economy wasn't doing well, and she would not get paid for months at a time. After 35, you were too old to find a new job in Argentina. So with borrowed money, hopes, and ignorance about how the immigration system worked in the US, we arrived to this country on August 7th, 2001. We had friends of friends who hosted us, but never really warned us about how complicated it was to obtain a residency. We became undocumented. There I was, hiding my gayness, no girlfriend ever, and being careful about how I would come out as undocumented. Will they accept me? Will my new friends treat me the same if they knew? I was still in the closet and finally knew enough English to chat. In 2004, I met Robert, an Air Force Master Sergeant, ex-straight married, 3 daughters, ex-Mormon. His roommate situation wasn't great, and I had space in the house that I shared with my straight roommate from church in South Salem. I invited him to move in with us, and after a few months, my roommate moved out, and for some strange reason, I asked my mom if she would rent a place altogether. Yes. I was living with my mom and Robert, and I wasn't out. She had a room downstairs, and there were 2 rooms upstairs. And per her suggestion, we shared a room and left the 3rd one to use as an office. One day, Robert and I had a fight, and he broke up with me for a few hours like it used to happen back then. I was very sad, and my mom noticed it and finally asked me, "Is there something going on between you two?" "Yes," I reply. "But please, don't kick him out." The first thing she told me is that she loved me no matter what. She struggled for a while, though. She's a Christian woman, and I had many questions. She had many questions and moments where she would buy me books about becoming straight. This was her journey too. I gave her time. I used to sing in the church choir. When they found out that I was gay, they said that I was welcome in the church, but not in a position of leadership. I found a church where we were welcome and married with a ceremony in 2008. Even my aunt, my dad's sister, came all the way from Argentina for it. It was also hard to come out to her because she was always cool. I was afraid to lose her. I kept communicating by chat with my dad once in a while. He finally asked me if I was gay because I kept talking about Robert. He blamed my mother for making me gay and asked me if I was going to start wearing girls' clothes. It was funny because growing up, he would often tell me, "You're not going to become one of those, right?" I kept saying, "Oh, no. He said he loved me anyways. In 2007, he died of pancreatic cancer. And in the last phone call I had with him, he told me that he loved me very much and asked me how Robbie was doing. He did not want me to go back to Argentina to see him because I wasn't going to be able to come back to the States. So they kept all his illness hidden from me until the last minute. Robbie, how he likes to be called now, was able to sponsor me after the Defense of Marriage Act was struck down in 2012. We visited Argentina for the first time in December 2013. When I became a citizen, I was able to sponsor my mom. We all visited Argentina together in 2018. She loves me and she loves Robbie. We are a family, and she totally supports us and speaks up to anybody who says anything against the LGBT community in church. I am happy. Thank you.
Growing up, my dad was an angry, aggressive man who I was scared of my entire life. Now he's an angry, aggressive, hardcore Bible thumper. So you can understand why when at 19 he came home from church one day and demanded we talk, my heart instantly dropped in fear. We sat down and he took my hands and started praying, asking God for the strength to get through this trial of faith. Basically, my dad was asking Jesus to take the wheel. And I realized he knew. I didn't know how he knew, but he did. He pulled out a folded up piece of paper and silently slid it across to me. I opened it up and was staring at a picture of me and my then girlfriend of a 1.5 years kissing. He said he had found it on his windshield that morning before church. Over the next 2.5 hours, a lot happened. After calling me a pussy-eating faggot, my dad grabbed his Bible and, with one hand planted on my forehead, attempted to exorcise a demon from me. When that failed, my mother grabbed her Bible and threw it at my head, barely missing. What are we going to tell everyone? How can we show our faces in church after this? Do you think you're not pretty? Why her? Because I love her. That's not love. That's the devil's work. I was given an ultimatum. The deal was I would meet with our pastor 3 mornings a week and see a church counselor every weekday. I would no longer be able to go anywhere, see anyone, or do anything. I'd go to church every Sunday and Bible study every Wednesday. No phone, no internet, no friends. I'd never see my girlfriend again. Never speak to her, never get in contact with her. I'd block her number and repent. Or I could get the hell out. Immediately. My answer came without hesitation. I grabbed a bunch of trash bags and threw anything that looked even remotely necessary inside. Before I could get out, my parents made me kneel in front of my 11-year-old sister and tell her that I was choosing to abandon her so that I could be with my girlfriend. Telling her that was the worst thing I have ever done as a sister. See, what you have to understand is she knew. A few months prior, I had overheard my parents telling her how homosexuality is an extreme sin that is not forgiven by God. The next day, I sat her down and had a talk with her. I remember it clear as day. I sat across from her and said, I want you to know that your God loves all his children. No matter who you are, he will always love you and accept you. Never be afraid to let your true self shine. We talked for a long time, and in the end, we hugged, and she said she understood and would remember. A few weeks later, she did what many little sisters do. She snooped. She found letters between my girlfriend and I and immediately realized what was going on. When she eventually came to me about it, I explained that there was going to come a time when I would have to tell our parents and that they would make me leave. We cried and she told me she loved me. We were fine. When I knelt in front of her that day, she pulled away and cried hysterically. It killed her that the day had come so soon. It killed her to see me leaving. I felt like a horrible sister for telling her those lies, and I will never forgive myself for that. The next few months are a blur. I got an It Gets Better tattoo to remind myself. I dropped out of school, slept in a living room for 6 months, and drank until suicide was no longer a scary idea. I didn't talk to my family for 6 months. I have never felt so completely alone in my entire life. But I got through it. Every morning, I looked in the mirror at my tattoo as I got ready for the day. It gets better. I repeated it over and over again, preparing myself for the day. It gets better. I got a second job and went back to school. I found ways to secretly talk to my sister and eventually got back in touch with my whole family. Things aren't perfect between us, and I don't think they ever really will be. Some things just cannot be fully put back together. My girlfriend and I eventually broke up, but I will never regret leaving that day. It will always be the best decision I've ever made for myself in my own mental health. It's been 2,584 days since I was thrown out of the closet. I graduated from an amazing university 952 miles from home and am now working in my field. I have an amazing partner and we recently got a place. I eventually broke up, but I have my dream job and even get to manage a restaurant where I get to eat an unhealthy amount of pizza. I'm living my dream. I didn't get the opportunity to come out. Someone else did that for me, and to this day, I still don't know who. In fact, I don't think I'll ever find out who. But that's okay, because it got better.
Hi, my name is Eytan, and this is my coming out monologue. Hi, my name is Eytan and my pronouns are they, them. I am 12. I first started questioning my gender identity and gender norms when I went through a phase of looking up different gender identities and sexualities. That's also when I started questioning my sexuality, but that's a different story. When I was looking up gender identities, I saw cisgender male and thought about the stereotypes that are tied to being male or masculine. And I thought about how men are supposed to be very masculine to the point that it gets toxic. Men are supposed to be into sports. Then I looked at cisgender female. The stereotypes that are tied into that were women are supposed to be overly feminine and flirtatious and basically had to be a submissive housewife. These are stereotypes that I just listed, not my opinion. These are like social stereotypes. I don't think any of these should exist. I really disliked both of them. So I scrolled down a little bit further and came across non-binary. I hadn't met anyone that was non-binary, so I didn't know if there were any stereotypes of a non-binary person. Then I read the description. A non-binary person is a person whom identifies as neither male or female. And I thought, I might be non-binary. Took me a little while to actually fully realize that I was non-binary. When I fully realized I was non-binary, I also fully realized that I had to tell my parents, friends, and family one way or the other. How did I come out to my family, you may ask? This is just my immediate family. Well, this is how. During the evening, my dad got an email from my old school saying that my sister could use the staff restroom if she wanted. That upset me because no one had asked me about my gender identity or pronouns. Later that day, my mom was registering me for the school I go to currently. And when she got to the gender part, I asked if she could put me as non-binary. So she did. Then I needed to come out to my friends, which I didn't really do. I came out to two of them, like actually face to face came out to two of them. I didn't really come out to either of my grandparents or grandmas. One of them was told by my dad that I was non-binary and preferred they, them pronouns, which she respected. My other grandma was very close-minded about it, so every time we FaceTime her, my mom has to tell her that Eytan's pronouns are they, them, and Eytan is not your granddaughter, they're your grandchild, which she does not seem to understand. Most of my friends know that I am non-binary, and I use they, them pronouns, and they respect that. I didn't actually tell most of them like face to face. I texted some of them. Most of them also know that I'm pansexual, and it comforts me to know that a majority of my friends can respect me as a non-binary pan person. Today, I live happily as a non-binary pan person with a mostly accepting community. I knew a couple homophobic people in my old school, but they didn't really get how saying that's so gay is homophobic or using gay as an insult is homophobic. And I really didn't understand how, like, you can use gay as an insult when if someone called me straight, I would actually kind of offended. I've known that I was pan since a long time. First, I thought I was bi. Then I looked up a list of sexualities and their meanings, and I came across pan, and I read the meaning: a person who loves people regardless of gender and cares about personality over looks. And I really felt like I could relate to that. After I came out at the age of 11, almost 12, my mom got a pride flag for our house. It wasn't just because I had come out, but like, we support the LGBTQ plus community. Now that I've slowly but surely stepped out of the closet, I've been painting/drawing a lot of pan things, and I might get a pan flag, but I already have one right now. The colors of the flag are pink, yellow, and blue, in that exact order. And that is my coming out story.
That tracks. That's something I would do. Hello, my name is Shawnee Harris Bagwell. My pronouns are she, they, queen, and I am a cis, queer, pansexual, sapiosexual femme who is really proud to be on the Basic Rights Oregon Equality PAC board and speaking here with you all right now. Thank you so much for joining us for the first ever virtual Coming Out Monologues, featuring these amazing, funny, touching, powerful stories from BIPOC artists. I want to give a shout out to our ASL interpreter, L'Uriel Aviles. Thank you so much. Thank you to Counselor Hull and Artistic Director Ted deChatelet for putting this all together. And a big thanks to all of the performers for sharing their stories with us today. We're hearing some amazing stories tonight, and we're here to support Basic Rights Oregon's Equality PAC. Basic Rights Oregon is a champion for LGBTQ rights in Oregon, from passing laws banning conversion therapy, protecting queer kids in schools, the first standalone trans justice bill, and non-binary markers on driver's license. Bro works hard to pass laws that protect us all, but that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the candidates fighting for these changes at every stage of government. The candidates Equality PAC supports. 100% of the money you donate to the Equality PAC goes directly to support pro-equality candidates throughout the state at every level of governance. These candidates are our shield. They act as the first line of defense against the vicious attacks we've seen on the LGBTQ community from the federal administration, and we still don't know what's going to happen in the Supreme Court. So it's time to give. Now it's time to pull out those credit cards, or if, like me, you online shop a lot, you may already have your credit card information memorized, but it's time to click the link. You'll find it on your screen. And if you didn't know and haven't used it, there's a $50 per individual and $100 per couple tax credit in Oregon for political donations. So don't forget to get your credit if you haven't gotten it yet. And again, it's time to give. I want you to give what you can. I want you to give like you would like the freedom to pee where you like without fear. I want you to give like you want people's laws out of your bedrooms. I want you to give like you want to ensure that teachers and faculty cannot discriminate against your queer kid. I want you to give like the federal government wants to strip you of your rights and send us back to the 50s. I'll give you a moment to get those gifts in. We can also take a breath together. Thank you so much for your gifts, for your generosity. We thank you for doing what you can to make sure that our state, the state of Oregon, remains protected. Now, let's get back to this phenomenal show.
My twin sister Cheryl is 5 minutes older than me, but I've always been the mature, outspoken one. She teased me because my hair was short. I refused to sit like a lady, and I preferred dungarees. I was the straight A student. She got B's. When our report cards came out, I said, "Whoa, look at those B minuses. I'd rather be a tomboy than a failure." Despite the mocking, she was my best friend and confidant. We used our imaginations to create whole worlds around a single item. A typewriter, a chalkboard, a cash register. I was always the boss and she was the incompetent secretary. I was always the teacher and she was the recalcitrant student. I was always the demanding customer, she the fumbling cashier. Our play was inspired largely by what we saw on television: Carol Burnett, Good Times, Three's Company. Then one year I went to summer camp. I slept in a bunk bed in a cabin in the woods. I'm a city girl from Baltimore, so this really opened up my world. Jen, my camp counselor, was beautiful and kind. She wore Cat Stevens t-shirts and OP shorts and tossed her dark, silky hair like Jacqueline Smith from Charlie's Angels. The next year, I returned to camp, hoping to see Jen. Instead, I found Stephanie, a talented 10-year-old artist from Frostburg. We held hands. She kissed my cheek as we stood behind a tree in the woods. It was secretive and lovely. At home, I started noticing how pretty Wonder Woman was, and the Bionic Woman, and Daisy Duke. The only mention of lesbians in our home was from my mom. "If you ever backtalk to me again, you'll wind up in jail where the lesbians will take advantage of you," she cautioned. My mother, an agoraphobic with untreated schizophrenia, was not always the most reliable source of information, so I decided to research the lesbian thing myself. The Enoch Pratt Free Library was my other home. I found the section marked Women's Studies. I perused the aisles and found an oversized book which caught my attention. Our Bodies, Ourselves. I was intrigued, grabbed the book from the shelf, and found a quiet corner in the reading room to explore the pages. I learned a lot about women loving women, though I noticed woman was spelled with a Y. Shortly thereafter, I enrolled myself in Western High School, the oldest all-girl public high school in the country. This genius move surrounded me with smart, beautiful, ambitious young women, and I tried on all kinds of personas like young people do. Jock, prep, punk. I settled on prep because polo shirts and khakis were easy to come by at the second-hand stores. Janelyn, the new girl, started in the fall term of my junior year. She was dressed from head to toe in LL Bean, and bonus, she played field hockey. Her last name was Walters, mine was Waters, so we sat together in almost every class. We became close. She invited me to her home to study after school, and I was catching feelings. I told Cheryl, "I'm in love." My sister looked puzzled. "With who?" "You can't tell anybody. You promise?" My sister really couldn't be trusted to keep a secret. First bit of pressure and cross your heart? "You're in love with a girl! I knew it!" she exclaimed. "You're not going to tell, are you?" "No, but..." She set a lot of conditions. She made me do her chores, her homework, anything she asked. All of a sudden, her B's were turning to A's, and I was losing my advantage. One day, she wanted money. I said, "I can't take this blackmail. Go ahead and tell. See if I care." Without hesitation, she screams up the stairs, "Ma, Dad, your daughter's a lesbian!" Just like that. I listened for my mother's irrational reaction, but all I could hear was the TV blaring the theme song from The Young and the Restless. Dun, 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 dun. This hour was sacrosanct. Doris Waters was watching her stories and not to be disturbed under any circumstances. I heard the unmistakable sound of her heavy footfalls coming down the hallway. She loomed large at the top of the stairs. "Ooh, you're in trouble," I said. Doris looked annoyed. With fists balled at her hips and her head cocked to one side, she asked, "What did you say to me, girl?" She hadn't heard Cheryl's public service announcement. Ha! Would Cheryl have the gall to rebroadcast her betrayal a second time, I wondered. "Your tomboy daughter is a lesbian. You know, a homosexual. She likes girls." I wanted to punch Cheryl in the gut. Doris, a no-nonsense woman, descended the stairs with some urgency. "A lesbian? Is that what you said?" I looked away, afraid to meet Doris's eyes. She could be brutal about things she disapproved of. But to my surprise, she said, "Well, at least I don't have to worry about teen pregnancy." She turned to Cheryl and said, "Are you one too?" I stared at the floor, my grin widening. No, I'm not, she protested. Doris said, "Well, if you change your mind, that's okay." She marched up the stairs and returned to her soaps. It was acceptance. Even if it was for all the wrong reasons, it was acceptance. And that was that.
All right. Well, you have heard our storytellers share their truths, their authenticity with you tonight. I want to say thank you, first off, to my fabulous and handsome and co-MC, Judge Kemp. Judge, thank you so much for being here tonight, and you really understand the power of these stories and the power of this event, so thank you.
Thank you for having me. And if anyone wants to check out my blog, look up judgedon'tjudge.blog, and leave me a comment.
Yeah, and I also just want to give an opportunity for you all to stay engaged. These next 3+ weeks are critical and are going to make such a difference in so many races in Oregon, but also nationwide, right? And this particular Tuesday at 5:30, Basic Rights Oregon is conducting a phone bank, and Secretary of State and Basic Rights Oregon Equality PAC endorsed candidate Shemia Fagan will be speaking at the top of the phone bank. So I hope you can all be engaged, and there's a link right now on your screen so you can find out more about that. I want to send my thanks also to Khanh and Christian and Alex and Eytan and Marisha and Faye for sharing their stories with us tonight. Hopefully this event empowers more individuals, whatever your age, identity, or religious affiliation, to come out and share your story with someone. Whether you identify as lesbian, gay, bi, pan, queer, questioning, trans, non-binary, demi, asexual, or yes, especially for those of you who are watching who identify as straight, cisgender allies, come out with those identities. It matters when you can that you do. We need your vocal support and we need your votes. Our lives and our rights and freedoms very much depend on it. We can no longer assume others' acceptance because even in the year 2020, there are people coming out for the very first time today. And when there are efforts to roll back LGBTQ protections and recriminalize our identities, it's no surprise that it is hard for folks to come out and brave the language of their own identities. Hopefully, we get to share their stories someday. We know that these stories are so powerful and can truly change hearts and minds. The stories you heard tonight were stories of courage and compassion and connection. There were stories about resiliency, authenticity, fear, curiosity, and acceptance. And they bring us closer to truly accepting one another. Like rabid mom Marisha says, one conversation at a time. Let's keep having that conversation. Let's invite people in to know our whole selves. And let's dedicate our vote to the future Eytans who deserve a world where their greatness is celebrated. Thank you all for being with us tonight and for watching. And you know, that bit link is still going to be active after this hour ends, and we want you to give and give generously. These dollars are critical and matter so much right now. Share your feedback in the chat. Share your feedback on Facebook with the hashtag COM2020. And lastly, I just want to say, here are my thanks that you'll see on the screen, and especially to my platonic life partner, Ted deChatelet, who is the one who had the idea to bring together stories from people of color in our community. These are Oregonians. These are your neighbors. These are your friends. These aren't just Portland Metro folks. These are Salem and Monmouth and outside of the just network that we think of where all LGBTQ folks are, we are in every community in this state. Since we started the Coming Out Monologues in 2015 on this very day, we've raised over $40,000 to support pro-equality candidates, and we do that because you give, and you give generously. So thank you so much for coming to listen, coming to support this space. Black Lives Matter, Black trans lives matter, and we are going to rebroadcast Marisha's story with the ASL interpretation after this. Thank you so much for coming, and let's get out there and vote. Have a good night.
Hi, I'm Marisha. This is my child, Eytan, and this is my parent perspective of Eytan's coming out. You know how life takes you to places, and when you think back on it, you can't even recall how you arrived at that place that you are? That's how it feels when I think about Eytan's coming out as non-binary. I recall specific events, not necessarily in any kind of chronological order, like when Eytan asked me to check the box non-binary when registering for school. Seemed easy enough. Cool, I can do that, no problem. I also recall Eytan asking me about using the teacher's bathroom because it was gender neutral. I recall receiving a text from a friend. It was a group text. We received it in the morning. This is back in the days when people got up and got dressed to leave their house to go to school and go to work. And we had received a group text from a friend. And I hate group texts. They are truly the worst. Putting that aside, I'd gotten a group text from a friend, and this group text stated that their child now identifies as non-binary and what name they have chosen. So immediately after reading this, I thought it was important to share this both with Eytan and deChatelet because they were going to go to school, and I wanted to make sure that they were properly prepared. They did not misgender their friend inadvertently and didn't call them by the wrong name. So that was super important that we had that conversation. Then I recall kids are dicks. Like, kids say things like, I don't care if you go by they or them. I'm going to call you she. I recall Eytan coming home sharing anecdotes like this of their day at school and being really effing annoyed at this response from their fellow students. Eytan has such a strong sense of justice and inclusion that this breach by a fellow student just did not compute, just simply doesn't register. Finally, as Eytan was about to begin middle school, they attended some school meetups where students could meet each other, and at least they could start school with a couple of familiar faces. So Eytan went to a couple of these meetups. One such meetup was a meetup for LGBTQIA students. Eytan went to this, and at this meetup, Eytan met another student who has since become a close friend. Eytan and this friend must have had conversations about a binder and looking less feminine. Later, Eytan, sometimes if I want, I call Eytan Eyter. Just kidding. No, I don't. Later, Eytan came to me and said, Mom, I want to get a binder. My head was swirling with questions. Where do I find one? What is a binder? Well, I mean, obviously, I know a binder. It's something that binds. Duh. Who should I get input from? How do I know which is a good one? How do I know which to avoid? I had all the questions. Then just as quickly, Eytan said, oh, my friend recommended this brand. Like, oh, geez, thank you, Black Jesus. Someone else has done the thinking. But that brand was a great portal for me to explore further. I perused their website, I perused their Facebook page, their social media posts, looked at their recommended brands, affiliate links, you name it. I did all the things to try to figure out as much as I could. And this coming out as non-binary has also caused some struggles within our family, our immediate family. Trying to tell family members of a certain age that your child identifies as non-binary, and please refer to Eytan either by their name or by their pronouns, they, them, or their. There are constant slip-ups where I turn into rabid mommy and get a little too aggressive when they misidentify Eytan, sounding a bit like a petulant tween, like, ugh, mom, it's Eytan, or ugh, it's they, not she. It's not hard if you try. I've gone on rants on social media because you know how Facebook posts like memories, and so then you post these pictures to your friends, and then in these posts you get all these congratulatory comments from your Facebook friends about something in that photo, and in that photo they would misgender Eytan. I have followed up many messages with a correction of their sentence with the proper pronoun for Eytan when they refer to Eytan, followed by a thumbs up emoji of their original post. It's the little things that make me feel good, but this little thing really is quite big because it's so important that Eytan feel valued and feel important and feel loved and respected. And so that's why I get a little rabid when people misidentify Eytan. I've had some tough conversations and sent family and friends videos to try to help them better understand and reaffirm Eytan. And I've explained when you misidentify Eytan, you hurt Eytan's feelings because you're invalidating who they are. Slowly, family members they're trying to make an effort. And I've realized that, yes, it will be difficult, but truly they just need to do it. And then Eytan came to me one night and said, can you tell Grammy I'm pansexual? Like, Eytan, come on. Get serious. You are 12. Let's just focus on pronouns. You're not dating anyone. That's right. Look away, child. This is not the thing to be focusing on right now. Eytan is not dating. Eytan is not sexually active. So let's just table that one. Let's not worry about whether or not Grammy gets that you're pansexual. Let's just focus on Grammy getting that you're non-binary, to call you Eytan and use pronouns they, them, their. Now, I may spend time finding the perfect video explaining what it means to be pansexual to send to family members. So if you know something, please do let me know. One video at a time, one article, one conversation at a time. I will do whatever it is I need to do to make sure that my child feels loved, feels welcomed, and feels respected. It's that simple.